What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of A&E Podcast. We're going to hop right into our NBA redraft number two. So, our last redraft, we went with the 2000 draft, which we already said was arguably the worst draft class of all time. This year, we're going to hop into the 2008 NBA draft, which is arguably one of the best drafts of the 20th century. So, I'm going to go ahead and state my first pick, and then Bailey will go from his first pick to his second pick, and so on and so forth. So, with my first pick, um, it was Chicago. And as we all know, Chicago took Derrick Rose. But I'm going to switch that to the original fourth pick, who at his highest, I'm doing the same way, highest 31.6 points per games and points per game, and that is Russell Westbrook. Staying with the guard, and obviously D Rose got hurt early in his career. He still is an average point guard. And who knows, that might have not happened if he wasn't the first pick, or maybe if Thibodeau took him out in the playoff game where he should have. But Westbrook, he's had a long career in the NBA, and even now playing the bench role in the Lakers is still proving that he is a top 10 point guard probably all time, I would say.
Yeah,
The most triple doubles NBA history, and why would you not want that as your first pick knowing now?
yeah. I 100% agree with everything you said. He's also my number one pick. I mean, I just don't see how you pick anybody else here. I mean, the guy averaged triple doubles for how many years?
Yeah,
Four, five consecutive? Maybe not five. It's probably four.
it's four. I believe it was four. It might have been three. Even still, to average triple double
Yeah.
that amount of time.
Nobody's coming close to that except now maybe Jokic, maybe Luka, and they're still not really doing. So it's ridiculous. But yeah, he was my number one pick as well. Um, to jump into my number two pick, I went with the original number one pick, Derrick Rose. Um, he's the only other MVP on this list. That was another thing I was going to mention about Westbrook. He's one of the only MVPs. So you know, he's got to be top two if he's gonna. They're MVPs. MVPs are always top of the class. Like you said, if Derrick Rose didn't go to the Bulls, maybe he wouldn't have gotten hurt. I mean, it's a huge what if, but
Yeah.
given his talent and his prime, still number two. He was an amazing player.
So that's super interesting. So Miami had the second pick, and we all know that very shortly after LeBron had gone to Miami. And obviously, in my mind, I'm playing that all back. And with my second pick, I took a player who formerly played with LeBron now, and that is the power forward Kevin Love, who was originally the fifth pick. I know it's weird to say, but if you think about Kevin Love in his prime, a player that his highest average 26.1 points per game, was also maybe the best outlet passer before Jokic all time, and you give that Kevin Love, who was, grabbing boards, putting up numbers and outlet passing like that to Dwayne Wade at the time, and if LeBron did come, I think that replaces Bosch in a bigger role. So, I'm obviously I look down the line in this pick, but they also look down the line and took Michael Beasley, and that's a messed up pick. And we saw Miami succeed without amazing point guards. So they always had that forward that helped them strive. And I think that Kevin Love in his prime was that guy for them. Unfortunately, he didn't have much in Miami in Minnesota to help him. But I think that pick, would have helped them down the line. And imagine even D Wade in his prime playing with a guy like Kevin Love in his prime. So I went with Kevin Love, my two. At my three, Minnesota is up. And I went with the player who was also formerly with them, and that is Derrick Rose. As you said, former MVP. I think that, after his injury, he strived the most in Minnesota's. I mean, now with the Knicks, yes, you could say. But, his historic 50-point game was in Minnesota. The crowd loves him there now. Um, and again, like you said, they messed up very badly in the next year with point guards. And I think that this would have helped them not to do so as well. In the next year, they drafted Johnny Flynn and Ricky Rubio back to back picks. So I think that this would have stopped them from doing that. And,
And
maybe drafted
correct
a
me if
big
I'm wrong, but both of those guys were taken before Steph Curry as well. Right?
Right before Steph Curry. So I think that D Rose would have been the guy that prevented that, and maybe built a dynasty for them. So I went with Derrick Rose in my three.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Again, like I said last time, I'm not really drafting for fit. I'm strictly drafting for best available player based off talent, skill level, things like that. Because a lot of times in the NBA, that's what they go off. They don't go
Yeah.
off who would fit best on our team. They
Yeah.
go off of which one of these guys is the most talented. So that's still what I'm going by, but I understand your fit perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't think Kevin Love should go number two, but
Understandable. But my thing is, Kevin Love in his prime was, arguably, if he would have stayed, if he would have had a deeper prime, he would have been one of the best power forwards, arguably all time. He was amazing.
yeah.
to have that court vision, be able to shoot in a time where power forwards weren't necessarily shooting, and to grab as many boards as he did. I believe that he definitely had double digit seasons where he was putting up,
Oh yeah.
10, 20, and 10.
Oh yeah.
And for him to do that with a player like Dwayne Wade, imagine Kevin Love grabbing rebounds and throwing outlet passes to D Wade, how exciting that would be.
That would be crazy. Yeah.
And he could stretch the floor. He did exactly what Bosch did.
Yeah. Fun fact. I'm gonna throw it out here. Before I got into watching basketball, Kevin Love was like one of the only players that I knew. Like I don't even know how or why. It was just like I saw him on like a Taco Bell commercial or something. I was like, oh, it's Kevin Love. This guy's huge. He's standing next to a regular human. What the hell is wrong with this guy? But yeah, he was like it was like LeBron, Kobe, and then like Kevin Love. Those are like the three players, and Melo, because obviously I'm from New York. So
Sorry to cut you up, but see, that's exactly what I'm saying. Kevin Love was involved with those guys in his prime. He
yeah,
was involved in that picture of the best players in the NBA. So that's why I'm putting him at that pick, especially here as a rookie. Like he was one of those guys. He was a top 20 player in the league at the time.
yeah. So going right into my third pick, Kevin Love. I don't think it's
He shouldn't have been the second pick.
shut up. But I think the top three guys that we have at the top three picks, I think they're just in a whole nother tier than everybody else. So we already went through that. At number 4, I have Danilo Gallinari. Um Based on everybody else left in the draft class, he was again the most talented. He does have some injury concerns that messed up his career along the lines as well. But compared to everybody else in the draft, he's number 4 for me out of talent and skill.
You're gonna be mind-boggling at my fourth pick. I know that you're gonna disagree with it very heavily. Um, Again, I'm going fit a lot in these drafts, and you'll see in the upcoming ones as well. I'm going for fit. In my mind, doing these, it's just fun for me to think about what could have happened in the organization if they would have drafted this player and how the organization would have changed. So in Seattle with the fourth pick, um, I went with a former second rounder in this draft who had his highest of 20.3 points per game and was a one-time All-Star, and that was Goran Dragic. Um, listen, man, I prime Goran Dragic was a phenomenal basketball player. On Miami Heat, he was phenomenal. On the Miami Heat, he was phenomenal. So imagine putting him with a player like Kevin Durant, especially Goran was never bad. In Phoenix, he sort of got messed up in a situation. They had him, Bledsoe, and Isaiah Thomas all in one organization, so they didn't have a set point guard. But imagine a player like Goran Dragic. I believe I might be wrong, but at this time, maybe learning from Gary Payton, who was probably just left the organization by with retirement, but learning like from a player like that, being around a player like Kevin Durant, both of them young and upcoming. Eventually, Kevin Durant be on the team. So I don't know. I think Goran Dragic would fit there. I think that he'd be a good piece for Seattle. Up and coming to OKC, obviously, and originally, eventually, they're gonna have a player named Serge Ibaka with them as well, a defensive-minded power forward, Kevin Durant, and then Goran Dragic. I think that would be a great fit if they're not getting Westbrook with that pick.
Yeah, yeah. I see this. I see the fit potential there for sure. Um,
But I'm going with fit, and he's a one-time All-Star. I think besides in this draft, Brook Lopez, he has the most All-Star appearances, if I'm not wrong, after those first 3 picks.
hmm.
I don't think that any other player made an All-Star game. So again, unless I'm wrong, I believe, yeah, Brook Lopez had. Oh, I'm sorry. There are more. There are more. I apologize. There's definitely one more, maybe two. We'll get to those in a little while, but I'm going to move on to the next pick now. And with my 5, Memphis, I'm taking a current Houston Rocket who was the original 7, and that is Eric Gordon. We saw that Memphis could develop their shooters. They did with Mike Miller. Mike Miller thrived in that organization, and Eric Gordon playing alongside Mike Conley in his prime, Marc Gasol. The team, and Vince Carter went there eventually, right after the Dallas Mavericks run. So let's say they do get Vince Carter, and they made a playoff push multiple years in a row, actually. And imagine they had a shooter like Eric Gordon, who again at his high was averaging 22.3 points per game. You never know what can happen with that shooter next to Mike Conley, who's a playmaking point guard.
Yeah, that's very true. I'm obviously a very big Eric Gordon fan. Sometimes I do dislike him. I'm watching the Rockets play, and he's standing 30 feet behind the 3-point line.
He's old now.
And but bro, this was when Harden was still there. This was like when they had their championship contending seasons. He'd be 30 feet behind the 3-point line. There'd be 20 seconds left on the shot clock, and he'd just chuck it. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? Like, I love him to death, but those plays just made me go, yo, get this guy off the team.
But
Literally.
everybody has their plays like that.
Yeah, everybody,
Everybody
but
has
bro,
their plays like
he does it a lot. He
that.
does a lot, even still today. I don't blame him now because they're rebuilding, so do whatever you want. But
Yeah, yeah.
back in those days, I was just like, yo, Eric, please just take a good shot, man. But I still love him to death. That's my guy. So I like that pick a lot, actually. Um, so going into my fifth pick, I have Brooke Lopez. So he was an all-star, if I'm correct.
Yeah, Net, I
Um,
believe the Nets all-time leading scorer as well.
yeah, he's literally. I mean, you know, if you want to count like guys like Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, guys like that, technically James Harden played there for a season and
Yeah,
a half.
he's a top 10 net all time.
But he's one of the best Nets of all time,
Yeah,
Brooke
yeah.
Lopez. After he left the Nets, he kind of had a little bit of a fall off. But
NBA champion now though.
yeah, yeah.
NBA champion now.
I was just gonna say on the Bucks, he's been a great role player for the Bucks.
He plays his role phenomenally. Another center that could stretch the floor.
Literally, like
I don't
he
disagree with that pick at all.
no, yeah. I'm a very big fan of him. I think he opens up Giannis's game more than like a lot of other centers could for that team. So a very big fan of him. I think he is the fifth best player in this draft.
100%.
And then going right into number six, I got Serge Ibaka. So another center, power forward type player. Um, not as good as Brooke Lopez, but he's another guy that does just exceptionally fulfills his role. Amazing defender, decent, decent. Was he ever like a good shooter? I don't know, but he was a pick and roll guy. So that's
Yeah.
all you need. That's all you can ask of him. So
Yeah. So with my next pick, I actually went with I believe your fourth or fifth pick, Danilo Gallinari, who
the
was
fourth pick.
oh sorry, we're on the sixth pick. I skipped over my sixth pick. My sixth pick, I went with Brooke Lopez,
Oh,
to the New
okay.
York Knicks. Actually,
Mhm.
like you said, you know, hands down top five player in this draft class. Obviously, I'm going for fit here. So I did go with Eric Gordon before him just because I don't see that him and Marcus all playing next to each other would be a fit,
Right,
which I
right.
don't think about it now. That would be like, a dual big man lineup, which a lot of teams are running now.
Yeah,
And he was able to spread the floor. So I could see him in that organization. Marcus all wasn't shooting at that point.
yeah.
So that might not even be bad. But
Even
I did
back in the day, they ran dual big lineups with Ralph Sampson and Hakeem Olajuwon.
true. True. But I feel like during the mid 2000s, that sort of fell off a little bit.
Yeah,
Everybody
definitely.
went with traditional power forwards more. Like as we said, Serge Ibaka was a traditional power forward defensive guy. Started shooting by the time he got a little bit older. Marcus Gasol, same thing. Pau Gasol, same thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, listen, the Knicks haven't had a good center since Tyson Chandler, and prior to that, I don't think they ever really had a good center.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Obviously Pat
Patrick Ewing.
Ewing.
Oh,
Yeah,
that reminds
I
me.
mean, I
Damn it,
mean,
I messed up. I messed up the whole podcast, Tom. My first pick was
Patrick
supposed to
Ewing
be
Jr.
Patrick Ewing. Damn it.
um,
You guys can look it up. There's a guy named Patrick Ewing who got drafted in
I
this class.
believe that not his son though, Patrick Ewing Jr.
It didn't say junior next to his name. I didn't know. I mean,
Okay.
I'm assuming it is his son,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. I
still,
mean, yeah, but
damn
still.
it.
But what I was saying is, in the mid 2000s, I mean, the Knicks had Marcus Camby.
No, yeah, yeah.
So, like I think that Brooke Lopez would have been that guy in New York, and he would have been there, you know, stone center, and possibly be an all-time New York player, like he did in New
Yep,
Jersey at the time.
yep.
Maybe you could have done that in New York, and you could have been there, stone there. And with my seventh pick, I actually went with the former New York Knick, Danilo Gallinari, a player that I love, being a Nuggets fan. And to this day, obviously now he just suffered a terrible injury, but to this day, I believe that he is still one of the best role players in the league. Um, he played his role phenomenally on the Hawks. Everybody could sit here and say that he didn't, but if you look at their playoff run, look at when they eliminated New York. How many clutch shots did Danilo Gallinari hit? Somebody you wouldn't expect to hit the shots when you have players like DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish, Trae Young, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Kevin Herter, John Collins. You don't expect Danilo to hit the shots he's hitting, but he's hitting one leg fadeaways and at 30 years old. So I went with him at my
He was a
seventh
great
pick.
player for OKC too, back when they had Chris
Yeah,
Paul.
yeah, and Chris Paul obviously set him up.
Yeah,
And again, we're talking about a Clippers lineup that originally that got Chris Paul eventually. And
Yep.
let's say they did get Chris Paul and Danilo's playing there with Blake Griffin potentially,
Yep.
and Chris Paul, maybe that's the difference maker. You never know. So I went with the fit with the Clippers. A 3-point shooting, floor spreading 3 and 4.
Yeah. So to jump into my number 7, I went with Eric Gordon, my guy. Um, Compared to everybody else in this class, I just think he's had the most longevity, consistency throughout his career. Even still, I do think some people call me crazy just because he's on the Rockets. They're not a good team, but I still think he could provide amazing support to a championship contending team. I
Yeah,
do think he is
100%.
worth a first round pick. So, like I said, some people call me crazy.
Yeah.
But if you're the Suns, if you're the Sixers, if you're a team like that who really kind of needs that shooting defensive wing, it's worth it to give up a first round pick for him. Even
If I'm
today.
the Lakers, I'm moving for him right now.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I
I
don't.
forgot
It doesn't
about
make
that.
sense that they're not. If I'm the Lakers and I need that wing, I'm taking Eric Gordon.
Yeah, exactly. So he's just had a very good long career. Um, and I do hope he gets traded to a contender and can compete for that championship.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my number 7. Um, then number 8, I went with George Hill. Um, he he's an interesting one to me. I mainly chose him for his prime. He had a very good prime, but he kind of outside of the prime wasn't an amazing player.
He was always good though.
Yeah, and
He was
even
good.
still today, he's a solid guy for the Bucks. I mean, they barely play him, but
Yeah, I mean, but again, he was another person he was on the Cavs in their championship runs.
yeah,
Got his minutes there. He played his role the way he needed to. But I don't disagree with that pick.
yeah.
Um, with number 8, I went with your favorite player's favorite player. The original number 2 pick, I went with Michael Beasley. But this pick is funny to me because so Milwaukee had the 8 pick, so I think that Milwaukee he sort of fit in Milwaukee at this point. This is very close to the Brandon Jennings, Monte Ellis, Andrew Bogut era where they didn't have a small forward per se. So Michael Beasley was funny though because his career was always so up and down. When he wanted to average 20 points, he was averaging 20 points. If you look at how his statistics throughout his career, it's so up and down. So he had those years where he'd average 20, 18, and then he had those years where he'd average 8, 10, 5, 7. But again, I think it depended on the role he was playing. And this is an organization where you're playing with two good guards at the point. You have a good defensive center. Michael Beasley could play defense. He
No,
was a,
yeah.
he was a good 3-and-D guy. He could spread the floor for you, but he could also knock down the mid range. So I went with him in my 8 pick. But I just think it's funny too the quotes that he used. Um, the your favorite player's favorite player. But I also feel really bad. I don't know if you've seen him on podcasts and stuff recently. He's very depressed. I feel so bad for him.
Oh, geez,
He's
that's
talking
terrible.
about yeah, poor Mike Beasley. So Mike Beasley, my heart goes out to you, man. I hope you're doing all right. But we're gonna move
I
on.
love him too. He's a former Rocket, former Nick.
Yeah,
I love that
he's
guy.
a legend, man. He's a legend. Yeah,
Yeah,
legend.
so that sucks to see him like that. Really.
And I know it's so unfortunate, man. Um, we're gonna move on from that, and we're gonna move to my number 9, which was Charlotte. And as we all know, Charlotte never had a good big man. It was impossible. They drafted like 10 big men in a row, and they're all garbage. Um, so I went with the original 35th pick, and I went with DeAndre Jordan here. DeAndre Jordan throughout his entire career, he's one of these guys in this draft class that has longevity as well. He's actually playing really good for the Nuggets. Obviously, I wanted Dwight Howard on the Nuggets instead of DeAndre Jordan. DeAndre Jordan, no offense to you at all. Um, but again, a great defensive center. He was an all-star. That's who I think I was missing, right? I'm pretty sure DeAndre Jordan was an all-star one
I
point in
believe
his
he was
career.
he was all NBA one year, so he had to be an all star.
Yeah, yeah. And he's a defensive beast. So imagine putting him on the team with Kemba and hopefully making the right picks from there instead of screwing up the organization. Thanks, Michael Jordan. Um, but I think that would be a fit over Bismack Biyombo and Cody Zeller.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, so I left off with my 8. I'm gonna go into 9. My 9 is Goran Dragic. Finally, I got him a little bit lower than you do. Because again, I'm going for skill, talent. I could see him and George Hill swapping. I don't think there's like a big skill gap between those guys. It's mostly just these are good role players. He's a good floor general.
I just think that the prime of Goran Dragic
Oh
completely
yeah,
blew the prime of George Hill out of the water. That's why I took him so early. Again, if that player's in his prime with a player like Kevin Durant, who knows how long his prime could have gone.
no, yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I got him at 9. And then at my 10, I got who you just named at your 9, DeAndre Jordan. Um, Again, defensive animal. Him and Chris Paul pick and roll,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing. Um, not a good shooter at all, so he's pretty limited on offense, but he does everything else extremely well, except maybe pass. But you know,
Yeah.
so I got him there at 10.
It's funny because we were just talking about like top players in the draft. And I think that it's funny because so many people that I feel like we drafted before DeAndre Jordan might not have been over DeAndre Jordan in their primes. I think that Brooke Lopez definitely is. And it's funny. Obviously, I put Michael Beasley there. I don't think Danilo is better than him. I don't think Eric Gordon was better than him. If you're looking at primes, prime DeAndre Jordan was a monster, man. He was a
Yeah,
beast. You wouldn't step foot in the paint if you're playing against him.
that's
He's
true.
making players that can't shoot.
Yeah.
So it's just funny that we both put him so late. But I'm gonna move on to my 10, which was the New Jersey Nets. And I'm going back to a traditional power forward at the time, and I'm going Serge Ibaka, another defensive monster. His nickname was Serge Ibaka, and the Nets, I believe that their power forward might have been, I might even be wrong. It might have been Richard Jefferson at the time. I believe it was even, I think I'm wrong here actually. But again, Serge Ibaka was a defensive monster. Developed a three ball later on in his career when I believe on Orlando at the time. When he was on Orlando, he started shooting a little bit towards the end of his career. But again, a defensive monster, grabbed boards, did what you needed to do, played the role. You have your scorers there. You don't even need him to touch the ball on offense. So my 10 was Serge Ibaka, who was the original 24th pick. And moving on to the Indiana Pacers, my 11 pick, I went with the original 21st pick, Rockets legend, 2K legend, Ryan Anderson. Um, Ryan Anderson, spot up shooter in the corner, if you could find him. And the only thing that processes in my mind is if they get Ryan Anderson on his rookie max, give him the 2 to 4 year deal, and you wait until Paul George is on that team. I just think that that's something to mess with. You have a spot up shooter in the corner. We've seen, look at LeBron. LeBron plays the same type of role that Paul George plays. He's a leader of the team, and he's always had a spot up shooter. So imagine giving a big spot up shooter to your dominant small forward. So I went with Ryan Anderson at my 11.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. That would be a good pairing for sure. With my 11, I went with the guy Nick Batum. He was amazing in Portland.
Yeah.
Amazing in Portland. Had a little bit of a fall off after that. Where'd he go? Charlotte, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. So he had a little bit of a fall off after that, but now he's in LA and he's been pretty good for them. He's been a solid role player. Um, he kind of got obviously he's never been as good as he was in Portland.
Actually, what's funny? I think that he's not, I don't think he's on the roster this year. I know last year he played with them. He was one of the best 3 point shooters. I actually just saw something, I believe, on Bleacher Report on Instagram, and it was all the shooters on LA in the last 2 years and like their percentages. And obviously, he was one of the higher percentage 3 point shooters. And they're like, they let go of all of these guys, and he was one of them. Because
Really?
at the beginning of the season, I believe that he was on the roster too. And I know last year he played pretty well with them off the bench.
Yeah, he
And
played
it
really
was
well with
it,
them.
it made me sort of just like, question what they were doing. Why would you cut a guy like that? You're not paying him a lot of money. He's one of
Wow.
your shooters. So it's funny that I it processed like throughout the first couple of games too, because I thought that he was still there as well.
Wow. That's news to me. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I was just talking about like how he was so good for them last season, and
Yeah.
I guess they didn't think he was that
Well,
good.
they didn't think that any shooter was good for them. They actually went and picked up what was it, DoorDash driver instead.
Oh,
They're like, oh, Matt Ryan, hey,
oh no,
come come
I'm
play.
talking about he's on the Clippers, not the Lakers.
Oh, is he? Is he on the Clippers this year?
I mean now I don't I'll look it up right
Yeah,
now.
I was gonna say I gotta check. I thought you were talking about the Lakers. I was gonna say.
No, no, no. He's on the Clippers last year. I believe he's still on the team.
Let me
I'd be
figure it.
very shocked if he wasn't.
Yeah, because in 2021 he was on the Lakers, and it's not saying anything about this year.
No, he wasn't. He was on the Clippers last year, bro. Yeah, he's still on the Clippers. He's still on the Clippers. Okay.
DJ Augustine?
I said Nick Batum.
Oh, dude, I thought you were talking about DJ Augustine. I'm
Where
sorry.
the hell did you get that from?
I don't know.
Well, that explains why
All right,
I
Nick
was so
Batum. Yeah,
confused.
sorry. Go ahead. Nick Batum's still.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Go
Yeah.
by. Sorry about that.
No, no, you're good. You're good. It happens. But
I
Nick
think I might have
Batum.
been. I think I might have been looking at my list,
Oh yeah, maybe.
and and I was staring at the pick, and I
Yeah.
was like, okay, okay, okay. DJ Augustine still on there, and I was like, yeah, this guy's good. I don't think he's on the team anymore though.
Oh, geez, yo, I was so confused. I was like, when did they cut Nick Batum?
I'm sorry. I don't know why that process in my head is DJ Augustine, dude.
Oh man, that's funny. But yeah, anyway, Nick Batum.
Great role player.
What'd you say?
That's a great role player.
Yeah,
He had a great season last year. He's playing good this year.
yeah, yeah. He never really hit where he was in Portland, but he kind of had the resurgence on the Clippers. He's been playing pretty well for them. He's a very good role player for them. He's kind of part of the reason why I have them as championship contenders. I mean, he's not like a big reason why, just because they're so deep, but he's part of the reason why they're deep. So
Yeah,
that's why I got him at 11. And then to go into 12, is it my turn to go into 12?
yeah.
Okay. To go into my 12, one of Tom's favorite players, JaVale McGee.
I love JaVale. You can't not like JaVale McGee. If you don't like JaVale McGee, you just like you can't enjoy the good things of basketball. That's my opinion.
Yeah. You can't enjoy the good things in life
Yeah, yeah.
if you don't like JaVale McGee.
Why? He makes you laugh. Still a great
Yeah.
player. There's nothing wrong with his game. He's an athletic big that plays defense, gets you boards, and makes you laugh at times. Throws the ball 100 feet over the backboard, thinking that he's throwing a lob to Jesus Christ himself instead of Kenneth Faried.
Him and Lance Stevenson think they're Shaq and Kareem.
Yeah, amazing, amazing basketball though.
It's he will have a stupid play here and there that makes you laugh, but the majority of his plays, he's a great role player.
He was a
Plays amazing
defensive.
defense. Um, Great pick and roll guy as well. Um, he does his job. He does his job. How many championships does he have?
I believe it's 3 championships and I think 1 Team USA gold medal.
Yeah, so he's absolutely decked out when it comes to stuff like that. And it's not like he rolled the bench in those championships.
No,
Played a
he
big
was an
role.
asset. He was
Yeah,
an asset. I believe there was 1 year in the championship on Golden State. He started.
yeah. No, yeah, he definitely did. He definitely did. So that's who I got at my number 12, JaVale McGee.
So
Love him.
going
If you don't love him, I don't know what to tell you. Turn
um
this podcast off if you don't love JaVale McGee.
at my number 12, we got George Hill, Sacramento. Like we said, George Hill was a good player. There's not much to say about him. Played his role very well, and Sacramento is known for picking up point guards. Isaiah Thomas, De'Aaron Fox, George Hill in this draft. So I went with George Hill. He was the original. I believe he was the original 26th pick, if I'm not mistaken.
Um, Hold on, I got it here. George Hill, yeah, 26.
26th pick, and then right after that, I went with Portland picking a player that they had instead of picking him 25, picking him at 13 with Nicholas Batum. Again, another player, as we just said, plays his role. He played pretty decent in Portland. One of their main guys there for a while actually. Playing the team with young Lillard, Wesley Matthews, LA, Robin Lopez. So again, played his role there, and I think that it probably wouldn't make sense for them to draft him this early, but if you saw how he played throughout the prime of his career, it would make a little bit more sense. So that's my 13.
So going into my 13, I got Roy Hibbert. He's another interesting player, kind of similar to George Hill, and it's funny they both played for the Pacers around the same time. Um, he just had a very good prime. He had a
Yeah,
very good prime. But outside of his prime, he kind of was just like eh, people say he forgot how to play basketball.
yeah, yep.
And it looked like he did, like he just had some crazy fall off. I don't know what happened to him. I mean, it happens, whatever, it happens. But he had a very good prime. He was a very good defensive center. Um, and yeah, I got him at 13. Then going into 14, I finally, Rockets legend, Michael Beasley. Finally went with Michael Beasley.
Favorite player, baby.
Yeah, love that guy.
Yeah, again, I think that the only reason I took him so early was because of fit.
Yeah.
But again, he's your favorite player. I'm gonna keep saying it. But moving on to number 14, Golden State Warriors. I'm going with the original 18th pick, like you said, JaVale McGee played his role in the Warriors, and if he could have been that guy for the Warriors that just stayed there his entire career instead of Kayvon Looney. And we saw that he was a dominant center for them, helped them go to championships. I know their team was stacked, but he was that defensive anchor down low with Draymond, who's small, who would just get blocks, get rebounds, and catch lobs. So I went with him in 14. And my 15, I went with, I believe Phoenix was on the clock, and I took the original number 9 pick, DJ Augustine. That's why I was looking at before. A player who, again, decent shooter throughout his career, small point guard. Um, they took him late. If in this draft they would have taken him late, maybe he would, outplay the role of Isaiah Thomas, and they'd see that they have a little guard there, and not take Isaiah Thomas, or maybe not take Bledsoe, another small guard, and let DJ Austin do his thing. Good 3-point shooter, um, spreads the floor on offense, good playmaker. So I'm going to take him on my 15.
And then for my 15th, I only went up to 15 for my redraft. With my 15th and final pick, I went with Mario Chalmers. Um, you know, key part of those Heat championships.
Yep.
He was just a solid role player again. Nothing too special, nothing too crazy, but he played his role and he played it well. So
Yeah, so actually, as like you said, you only went up to 15. I actually have two personal honorable mentions, and those honorable mentions are two people that you actually put in here. And that was Roy Hibbert at 16, who would have been going to Philly. As we've seen later on in the years, that Philly liked centers, and a guy in his prime like Roy Hibbert maybe would have prevented them from doing so and taking Jalil Okafor, Nerlens Noel, Willie Cauley Stein, I believe. Did they draft him? No, no, no,
I believe
no, no, no.
Sacramento drafted him. I'm pretty sure.
I was gonna say I feel like there was another center that was there.
Joel Embiid,
Yeah, I know, I know
center in the
Joel
league.
Embiid. I'm
The
just
best
saying,
center, the best center in the league.
right behind Nikola Jokic. Yeah,
No. Number one, not
uh,
number two.
a good rebounder in his prime, good defensive player in his prime, and at the time Philly had Andre Iguodala, who was an all-star caliber small forward. So mix him with a great defensive center, and that wasn't Dikembe Mutombo at 95 years old, and and then at my 17, Toronto, I would have put Mario Chalmers. This is prior to the Kyle Lowry era.
Okay.
So again, he played his role. Good three D and playmaking point guard.
Yeah.
Key part of those championship teams, and who knows what he probably could have done with DeRozan, and depending on who they got, Valanciunas at that time. So those are my honorable mentions at 16 and 17. And if there's anybody that you guys think that we left out in this draft, please let us know. We will be checking out the 2009 and the 2014 drafts very soon. So make sure you guys tune in for those.
Those are going to be fun.
They're going to be really fun.
I already know. I got some opinions in there. Everybody's going to look at me crazy. So,
and there's going to be a lot of arguments between Bailey and I between who the best center in the NBA is. So if you guys like this video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you do not, if you like these kinds of videos, and we'll catch you guys next episode.
Peace.